Hello everyone. So for the longest time we've heard, since probably I was a child, I don't even know, because when I was 1 year old I was still talking about this, and we're about 20 years or more on, about a metro from the city centre, Dublin city centre, into Dublin airport. Because at the moment there's no train, would you believe, going from Dublin city centre out to the airport, and it's insane. So the idea was 20 years ago, and still going, that they would build a metro, like an underground, I suppose above ground in some cases too. A bit of both, I suppose. So this was 20 years ago, and long story short, to put a long story short, nothing has ever been done. So pretty much they're still sitting at X. It was supposed to be done by 2030. It could be done within the next 5 years. But long story short, nothing has been dug yet. Not even one sort of dirt has been dug up yet. Still, it's about a billion or so. It's a few billion anyway, just in the planning stage, pretty much. And it's going to cost about 23 billion. Now, Luxembourg, small country, built from the city centre in Luxembourg city centre out to the airport for 500 million, a train line with 24 stops. And I don't know how they done it. In less than a year or so, they done it. A bit more, I think. A year and a bit. And they were able to do it. And in this country, we would last 20 years doing it. And we're still going forward. So they were saying 2030. Not likely that's going to happen. But yeah, the costs, the same as everything in this godforsaken country. The cost at the time, I think, was going to be 7 billion, and it keeps going up and up and up and up and up, because everything in this country, nothing can ever be built to the budget. But just take, for example, I was in Helsinki recently, but not recently, last year. I didn't take the underground. There's an underground straight from the airport to the city centre, which is a good distance away. It's about 30 minutes away. It's a lot further than Dublin airport to Dublin city centre. But long story short, next time I probably will take just to see it, because it's very efficient and it's very cheap. It's €4 compared to a taxi, which is about nearly €70. But long story short, I could tell you up teens amount of times I've talked to tourists and stuff like that, and they land in Dublin airport expecting a train to bring them into the city centre. I remember one American tourist from Massachusetts in the United States coming, and I met them in Cavan Town, and they were asking me for directions to a place. I remember them saying to me, it's a terror that there's no trains in Cavan. And I was like, yeah, there's no trains. That a shock to you. And they were saying to me they had to get on the bus. They came down to Cavan. They were doing kind of a tour, I suppose, what you would say, from Dublin up to Donegal. So they stopped off in Cavan to look around and do things. As you do, obviously, as a tourist. They were going on up to Donegal and up to Derry. And they were like, there's no train. There's no train to Cavan. They had to get a bus to get the 109 from Dublin. I was like, it's been like that since, the last 60 years in this stage. And they were shocked. They were holy Mary shocked that there was no train going to Cavan, or even to Donegal, take was happened from Dublin through Meath to Cavan to Monaghan to Donegal. There was no train at all. And they had to hawk luggage on buses and stuff like that. Like, that is insane. And they were even more shocked because they said to me too, they landed in the Dublin airport, they were expecting a train to bring them into the city centre. They pay a taxi, and I think they said the taxi was about €50, which probably would be about right, to get into the city centre, whatever hotel it was about €50 they said. But I remember that, and that stuck with me. And not them, just not them. I remember there was a couple from Peru, would you believe, I met once, in Cavan Town too, and I remember them saying the same thing about Dublin airport particularly, that they either had to get a taxi or the bus. There was no such thing as, here's a train, get on the train. There's no such thing. You had to either get a taxi, bus. And it's not easy, and especially the price of a taxi too, it's gone up. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. Then obviously a bus too, if you have big luggage bags, it's awkward as fuck. But it's insane that we're still, and we're probably I think we are the only country in Europe without an underground system. It's insane, and Helsinki has for the last 100 years. But yeah, so nothing has ever been done. It's ludicrous. It's madness that we're still here discussing it 20 years later. Like they said about upgrading railway infrastructure and building new train lines and stuff, going to Cavan and stuff, that's going to take 900 years. We'd be all dead and buried 5 times over by the time they get around to doing that. Because, as I say, it's ludicrous when you really sit down and think about it. Like, for the price that they're talking about building, you could probably build a train line from Dublin to Cork, a brand new train line. And this is only probably a few kilometres, and they're struggling to do this. It's insane. But it's absolutely ludicrous. And we expect tourists, and we wonder why tourists don't come to Ireland. When, it'd be a lot more convenient for the tourists to go into the metro, right, or whatever, metro, underground, same thing. And instead of hauling bags and buses and go and get taxis, as I said, but the Helsinki airport is a great example. €4 in and out. You can go to the city centre for €4, 30 minutes on the train. €4 compared to paying maybe 50 to 90 euros on the taxi. And the bus ticket's not that bad, but again, the train is a lot more efficient to get there quicker. And I think everybody would agree. Everybody would far much agree. €4 is a bargain. And if we done something like that too, even if we said €7, right, something like that, fair enough. But it's ludicrous. And again, Luxembourg were able to do it, and Ireland can't do it. Again, not one bit of ground has been dug. That's the thing. It'd be different if something was dug and we had something to say, yeah, it's dug. But we're still debating this. We're still kind of yapping around this. It's insane. But again, this was the estimated amount back in 2021, 7 to 12 billion. Now we're at 23 billion. And counting, just to say. So at the end of all this, and again, this is the question I was asked, how much do you think it's going to cost at the end of it all? It's definitely going to cost probably 100 billion. It definitely is, because nothing has been dug. You have to get it. This is just the planning and just talking about it, discussing it, having meetings and stuff, paying people to stand there looking at holes. It's going to be 100 million. It's definitely 100 billion, sorry. 100 billion euros. It is going to be definitely that, because there's no shred about it. It's already 23 billion at the moment. And counting, just to say. Because nothing's going to be done by 2030, and then they have to redesign probably other stuff, and then they have to do this, and then they have to do that, and then there'll be money for this, and then there's money. It's ludicrous. And it's only an underground, or even just a train above ground, going from the airport to the city centre through Swords. Like, you're not asking for them to, build the Arctic Express or something like that, or build the Siberian Way, the Trans-Siberian Railway. I don't know how this country can have, and the same with the Children's Hospital. If we look at the Children's Hospital, the most expensive Children's Hospital in the world, more expensive than the tallest building in the world. And you sit there and you question reality when you hear that. You question reality. What kind of lunatics do we have in our country? Who gives this the green light? Again, people green light this. People sign off on this check and say, this is good. Darrell O'Brien is like, this is great. I agree. None of them saying who in the name of God made this go over so much on the budget. Like, what kind of bullshit is this? None of them are saying they just signed the check and that's it. Great investment. But it would be a great investment if it was done. It would benefit the country severely. It would benefit Dublin City Centre. It would benefit the airport too, because it would be more efficient to get people moving, to get people around the city, and from the airport to and back again. It would be more efficient. I'm sure we would all agree. It'd be a lot more luxury for people. But again, luxury in this country doesn't exist. But anyway, thank you for watching. Subscribe more, and bye.